Hello. Hi. Hi, everybody. Oh, it's just so great to see you. I've missed you. I hope that maybe you missed me a little bit. Some of you haven't even met me yet, so you weren't able to miss me. But maybe after today, you might. Wait a second. I'm going to be back next week, too. In fact, you're going to be seeing a whole lot of me over the next few months, and I'm really looking forward to being with you as your minister. This theme of our month is abundance, and I love the idea of abundance. It reminds us that there is always enough in the world. We may not be able to buy love, that's true, but love is always and ever present among us. When I was looking through the material about abundance that's made available to us, I came across a wonderful little piece written by my friend and colleague Amanda Poppy. Amanda, I knew her when she was a student many years ago, and now she's a very wonderfully influential minister in Washington, D.C. And she wrote this lovely piece that I've shared with your board, and I've shared with your Canvas leaders, and I'm going to share with you. And you have a part, and this is your part. You get to say, "This is the home that love made." Can you say that?
This is the home that love made.
So and I will go like this when it's your turn to say that. So,
this is the home that love made.
It is full of the love that the founders felt when they dreamed this church and gave it a place.
This is the home that love made.
It is full of the love of all who have worshiped here, those who have celebrated and grieved here, the babies dedicated, couples married, and family members mourned here.
This is the home that love made.
It is full of the love of our children as they learn and laugh together, and our youth as they grow into their own sense of purpose and meaning.
This is the home that love made.
It is full of the love of the staff who have served it, full of their hopes for this congregation, their hard work, and their acts of dedication.
This is the home that love made.
It is full of the love of the choir, the love made so clear in the voices lifted here on Sunday morning.
This is the home that love made.
It is full of our love, the love of this community, despite our differences and our disagreements, the love that holds us together as a people.
This is the home that love made.
Can you feel it?
Yes.
May that love be with us always.
Do you ever feel like you have a little bit too much abundance in your life? I know I sometimes feel like this when my 2.5-year-old Rowan has delightedly strewn every single toy that he has all over our tiny living room. Or when he's singing a new song he's come up with that consists of him intently shouting a nonsense word over and over again in varying pitches of ear grating. Sometimes my home life feels like it's just a little too much, and I am often wiped out by Rowan's incredible emotions and interests and passions. I mean, this is the stuff of toddlers, for sure. But the intensity he lives his life with is just tiring.
Yeah.
And it's also something I marvel at and cherish. And sometimes I find something similar with our UU tradition, with our wide theological openness and belief that there are many pathways to truth, or with our encouragement for each one of us to discern what we know to be true about the divine, or goodness, or what happens when we die. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by all that openness, too. And yet, I wouldn't have it any other way. Our questioning tradition might not offer the same comfort that clear, pat answers can, and yet I find the open center of our faith incredibly meaningful in the way our tradition reflects the complexity of life and the interconnected world we live in, and in the way our free faith calls us back to this abundance, to ever-widening community where all are welcome, to ever-increasing justice where all can find freedom, and to ever-expanding love where all can know they are worthy. And so, I dedicate the lighting of our chalice, symbol of our faith, to the abundant complexities of our lives, and the struggle and the joy they bring.
Hello, everyone. I welcome the opportunity to speak to you about my commitment to this church and its future on this Canvas Sunday. My name is Marcia Stevenson, and I'm the president of your board of trustees. Man, woman, birth, death, infinity. A melodramatic voiceover of these 5 words introduced each episode of Ben Casey, MD, in the early 60s when I was still watching primetime TV with my parents. Our views about some of these words may have changed over the decades, but they've stuck in my mind. The young doctor in the show is mentored by the wise Dr. Zorba as the episodes turn. I'd like to reflect on those words this morning. Let's imagine that my experience in this congregation are recorded on old film stock, and I'm going to snip out a few frames to freeze for a closer look. First, the man-woman frame. Picture 50 fun festers just 3 weeks ago today, helping Jim and me celebrate our golden anniversary at a 1968 party. The community support we have found here, both as individuals and as a couple, have become a touch point of our lives, especially in this past year, which has been marked by challenges and joys. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. Second frame, birth. I first connected with this congregation over the winter of 1979-80 when I was pregnant for the second time. Rod Stewart, who was then executive director of this church, invited me to join a type of building your own theology group that he was starting up. Based on a few evenings of reflection, journaling, and conversation, I entered the word Unitarian on the personal information card I filled out for Lionsgate Hospital. But then, things went sideways. Our son Adam was born suddenly, 3 weeks early, turning blue from lack of oxygen. The baby I was ready to cuddle in my arms, as I had his brother, was immediately whisked into an incubator, isolated, his eyes squinted tight shut with the effort it took to inhale. Equally unexpected as the despair of my hours in hospital was the visit of an older woman I had never seen before. She introduced herself as a member of the North Shore Unitarian Church, and after a brief conversation, suggested that I might try connecting with my son by centering myself and stroking healing energy along his spine, in the air above the incubator. I had never forgotten what an impact her kindness made on a very tearful, jittery, total stranger whose own mother was 1,000 miles away. Next frame. This coming Friday, I will mark the anniversary date of my mother's death. When I returned to North Van in 2001, after a month away, I found it difficult to sing hymns, to speak, or even look into people's sympathetic eyes. But I could sit in the pews, listen, and gaze up at the light streaming in through the Roy Miller Legacy windows. This past year, I attended memorial services for two of our founders, Anker Graham and Doris Noel. It is because of the commitment of congregants in decades past that we have a church to grieve in as well as to rejoice in. This week, we have lost Irene Miller and Sharon Bowman. I know when I unpack a certain box in my new apartment, I will find the NSUC logo that Sharon made for me of stained glass. I treasure this legacy from her and from so many who have bequeathed us countless gifts, both tangible and intangible. Celluloid frame on which we project our own imagined future. We've weathered some tough times before. We will survive and sustain this congregation for the generations to follow. For all these reasons, I am not only renewing my pledge this year, but increasing it, and I invite you to join me.
For I am open, and I am willing. For to be hopeless, what seems so strange, dishonors those who've gone before us. So lift us up to the light of change. I invite you to take a deep breath. We call upon the Great Spirit that we call by many names to be with us in this place at this time. Knowing that when good people gather to make a difference in the world, when love is present, as it is so vibrantly right now, there's hope and possibility. So I invite Ariel to light our first candle in honor of all those who have been generous and loving, who have offered themselves in witness for peace and justice. Today, yesterday, and far into the future. But let us bring ourselves back now to this moment when we are here together and there is in our hearts loss and love and grief. We note the death of Sharon and of Irene, and there may be others in your lives as well. Let us bring their spirits forward by speaking their names into the circle of community. If someone you have loved died in the recent times, let us speak their names now.
Hilda Pizarro.
And perhaps there are those in your life who are suffering, who are ill or struggling. Perhaps that someone is you. And if that is the case, I invite you now to bring those names into this circle as well.
Lynn, Jim,
Grace.
as Ariel lights the second candle, let us open our hearts to each other and to the great love that is present all around us, and sit for a moment together in quiet, listening for the voices of healing and hope to be heard in our hearts. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. I've always loved Henry Fleury's beautiful piece. It's complicated, but it's real and true. It's haunting, for it reminds us to open our hearts to each other and to all the beautiful and meaningful energy that is here and present among us. Let me be part of the love you give. Let us be a part of all the love that is around us now and always. There is extraordinary love in this room. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Yeah, come on. Can you feel it?
Yes.
Feel it? Let's feel it. It's there, you know. Take a deep breath, look around, notice there is love in this room. It never ceases to amaze me what can happen when good people come into religious community in order to worship together. Here in this space, surrounded by our memories and buoyed by our hopes, we are creating a church community that changes lives. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Well, today, as you know, is the launch of our annual canvas. This process, as Mark mentioned to you, is when everyone in the congregation is asked to think about what this church means to them and make a financial commitment to support it. Now, as you might imagine, I've preached a few of these sermons before. I mean, I'm thinking probably at least 20 times. And I've had people ask me, isn't it strange to talk about giving and money during a church service? Don't you ever get tired of it? And my answer is always no. No, it's not strange, and no, I don't get tired of it. For you see, the work of the church is incredibly important, particularly in this day and age. We need places where people can come together to be called to their best selves. We need communities that model the values of inclusion and diversity, caring and learning, justice and hope. We need a religion that honors different ways of being spiritual and that teaches children to be fully themselves. The world really needs churches like this one, and I never get tired of asking people like you to support it. And so today I ask you to do just that. Support this church you love. And I ask you to support it with abundance. Abundant love, abundant hope, and abundant resources. Now is not the time to be stingy in your commitment. Now is the time to give generously. When I came to North Shore in June, I knew I was entering into a congregation that was hurting. Your beloved co-ministers had to leave for their health and well-being, and their expected long ministry ended after just 2 short years. Now, we've entered into a year of change, and you may be tempted to think that you should just let things slide. Take a year off, stay home, keep your wallets closed. And I understand that feeling. It can be so hard to accept big changes that came without your desiring them. But I want to challenge you to rise to the occasion this year offers. I want to challenge you to be resilient, resourceful, and ready in order to move forward with hope and joy. When I first met with the excellent leader of your Canvas team, Mark Pizzaro, I asked him about this congregation. Tell me some qualities, I inquired of Mark, that stand out for you when you think about North Shore. Without hesitation, Mark looked me in the eye and said, "We're resilient. We're resilient." And I've heard that word a lot as I've moved deeper into my ministry with you. Resilience is such an important quality in human lives and in human communities. Resilience enables us to meet the inevitable challenges of our lives without going under. When we're resilient, we're able, when the floods come, to keep our heads above water, and if we haven't already, learn how to swim. Now, I've heard a lot of stories of your resilience, how you've weathered difficult times in the past. I want to challenge you as you look to the future to remember those times and trust that you can rise to the occasion of big change once again. Now look around you. Look around you. Now these are the faces of people who've been there and know how to handle hard and difficult times with grace. You know who you are. The ones of you who've been here, who've done that. Now, if you are one of those people who in the past have helped this congregation get through a challenging time, I applaud you. Huzzah! If you're newer to the congregation, and it's been smooth sailing all the time, I invite you to consider how you can offer your gifts to help this church move forward in a resilient fashion. Join these other resilient people and step forward and be bold in your support. And talking about support leads me to the second word in our Canvas theme, resourceful. Resilient people are able to swim in a choppy sea because they have the resources to do so. Now, I see so much abundance in this congregation, so many gifts that you can offer to each other, to this place and its work. One definition of resourceful is the ability to overcome problems or to make do with what is available to create a solution. And look at all that you have available here to you at North Shore. You have incredible people from all walks of life who bring extraordinary gifts to the table. Without even accounting for all the behind-the-scenes people who have done so much just to make this service happen, I see musicians, ushers, greeters, teachers, speakers, artists, financial wizards, videographies, and so on, and so on, and so on. You also have abundant resources in your wonderful staff, your lay leaders, this building, and all the other ways that people here give to create this incredible church. So I ask you, resourceful people that you are, what resources do you have to offer this church you love? What energy can you expend to support this congregation during what we know is going to be a challenging year? What gifts of service can you imagine giving? How will you help? This church needs you. It needs you and you and you. It needs each and every one of us. It needs us to give until it feels good, to share our resources abundantly and generously. And that leads me to the hard conversation. For you see, I can't talk about resources without talking about money. For money is one critical resource we can offer our church. And yes, talking about money is always challenging for anyone, particularly your minister, to share from the pulpit, as your former interim minister said so wisely. And yet I'm looking you all in the eye as much as one person can look everyone in the eye. And I'm saying to you loud and clear, this church needs your time and your energy, yes. But it also needs your financial resources. It needs your money. Now, I want to ask you to think deeply about what this church means to you, and then imagine it's gone. No place to bring your questions, dreams, and hopes. No place to bring your energy, your ideas, your wisdom. No place to bring your beloved spouse, your best friend, or your children. Gone. This isn't something entirely abstract. Jocko and I just returned from a trip to England, where many, if not most of the churches there are more museum than congregation. People go to cathedrals, as we did, to ogle the beautiful buildings and listen to the music, but they don't find much community or love or hope in those empty rooms. And if you think that's only in England, think again. Statistics show that church attendance in this part of the world is extraordinarily low. And some people say our congregations could be gone in less than 100 years. Maybe less. This is all by way of saying that if people like us don't support our congregation with our resources, it is entirely possible the church could disappear. And so I ask you point blank, do you want that to happen? If you don't, then I invite you to give to this church abundantly, joyously, optimistically. I will be pledging 3% of my income to North Shore, even though Jocko and I already support 2 other congregations. Your board members, with input from the Canvas Chair, have set a challenging but achievable goal to raise pledges by 6%. You've done this before, and I know you can do it again. And already many generous people have raised their pledges to get us off to a good start. Remember, this church is not a charity. This church is your home, and it's your family. I know you are resourceful, full of resources, and I invite you to give abundantly from them to this church you love. And finally, I want to assure you that you are ready to move forward with hope and joy. Now, I know it may seem hard right now. There's still a lot of grief in this community and uncertainty too. How will we ever move forward after we've lost so much? Is the cry I hear from many of you. I understand. I do. It's tough, and it's hard, and it's sad. But you are resilient, you are resourceful, and now is the time to trust that you are ready and that you can move forward, even though it is hard to let go of what might have been. Over the next few weeks, you will have the opportunity to talk to a canvasser about how you will support North Shore this year. You have an incredible team of people who have taken on this very important job, and I'd like to invite those folks to raise their hands again. If you're going to be canvassing, raise your hand, and let's give these people raising their hand a hand. Now, I know they all appreciate that applause. Who doesn't appreciate applause? But what they will really appreciate if you, when asked, make a generous pledge. Enjoy the conversations you will have as you talk about what this congregation means to you. Come to the potluck tonight and have fun being together as a community. I'm looking forward to the mystery guest. Listen to all the testimonials that will grace this pulpit over the next few weeks. Then turn in your pledge card so we can, on November 19th, celebrate the end of a very successful process. I know we can do it. And I know we will. When I was asked to join you as your minister last spring, I did so knowing that I was casting my lot, if only for a year, with a wonderful group of people who make a real difference in this part of the world. Your spirits are strong, my friends, and I know that we will move forward with hope and with joy. For now, though, let us take a moment to reflect on all that we cherish as people of faith by listening to the gorgeous voices of light, your Vox Lumina Choir. Sing Spirit of Life in an arrangement that you may not have heard before. We will begin by singing together Then the choir will sing for us, then we'll all come in to sing in harmony. But you need to follow me and only sing when I sing. Unless you're in the choir, in which case you can sing when Allison tells you to sing. All right? I think you'll enjoy having this wonderful song bless us. So I invite the choir to come forward now.